There's a trend going around on TikTok where girls or men are saying that they have dual income and no kids, and that makes their life just wonderful. Let's get into it.
More, and this is happening to so many women today. I can't have children anymore. What did I do with my life?
For those new to the channel, my name is Casey. I've been a therapist for more than 13 years, a husband and a father for more than a decade, and I started this channel to try to promote a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom in America, and part of that includes directly refuting and rebuking the dual income, no kids movement and all of the attractiveness that it seems to propel on TikTok.
Disposable income. She has like weird sculptures, like hand sculpture. Always quiet. Candles as plants. Watching cartoons because I want to. Oh my goodness. Never missing a brunch. Never missing a brunch because my time is all mine. My time is all mine. She's having some like Corpse Reviver or some kind of brunchy drink.
Lila Rose recently went on the Michael Knowles show to talk about this dual incomes, no kids movement. And quite frankly, they were so on the nose. All the people posting on TikTok about how they have brunch all the time, how they have mimosas whenever they want, how they take travel and trips whenever they want. They have no idea what it's like to derive meaning and purpose from children. My wife and I had planned on having 2 kids. We now have 4. She had 5 pregnancies. Part of the reason is every time we have one, we are so robustly blessed that we choose to have another one, and we trust God in order to have hope that we can help create a future that would be better for them. So all of the objections, we'll take one at a time. Watch this.
Superficiality that this woman is celebrating as some sort of advantage to her, as some sort of amazing opportunity that she has. It's quite frankly depressing and sad to see.
Lila Rose hits this point on the head that the girls are not okay and neither are the men. We are going so far to try to rebut anything that looks like a good relationship nowadays, and marriages are being deferred and childbearing is being deferred. It's the Taylor Swift syndrome hitting our American culture, and that will be coming to a nursing home near you at some point when there are no actual humans left to actually care for the elderly, to care for the old folks. But that's not everyone's concern. I understand it's very difficult to afford to have children, but I'll be honest, in our household, our kids eat for free for a year or more as my wife provides the nurturing and the sustenance that they need. So at least you can wait a year. And the good thing about men who are married and have families is that they make 10 to 11% more than their counterparts who aren't married, because we as men who are trying to care for a family are inspired to make more, and that typically leads to more income over time, because as you see the faces of your children when you walk through the door after you get off of work, you are inspired to try harder. You are inspired to do better. I am a campaigner for having children because I know, as a therapist, many people are devoid of purpose, and my children have provided more meaning and more ability to survive and persist than any other thing that I've ever done in my life, which I'm in recovery for 20 years. I've been an international missionary. I've done a lot of other things to be proud of, but having children has been way more fundamentally meaningful than everything else I've done.
Everything in her video, except now you're surrounded by human love. You have someone that you're loving and being loved by, as opposed to being alone and ultimately, I think, miserable. When people are alone, the social data shows people get miserable. So I feel bad for her, but this is a trend. And again, it's TikTok likes. That's what this is about.
There are so many articles that are coming out from feminists that say that essentially they bit the apple of feminism. They believed the lie that those relationships that they were in were meant to be sort of transactional and that they should be girl boss their way into eternity. And then they look around when they're in their upper 50s or whatever, and they find that they're actually alone. They find that it wasn't the same. It wasn't what they wanted. Ultimately, a great many women and men who go throughout their life course and end up childless later in life regret it. This is important. You are so much more fulfilled. Now, it's harder too. Don't get me wrong. Fatherhood is not easy. I feel inadequate very nearly all the time. But the good news is, as a human, that probably is going to happen to you anyway. So at least I can feel inadequate and have kids and have an inspiration for me to be more adequate, to be more competent, because without them, I don't know where I'd be. You know, my wife is wonderful, but had we not had the capacity to have kids, I would be a different man today. And in no ways is the man that I was before having children better, stronger, or more resilient than who I am today.
People write in, they say, should I have kids? Should I get married? Whatever. I say, yeah, you should, because at a certain point, brunch just doesn't hit the same way it did 10 years ago. And she uses that example. She goes, but I love brunch. You know, and I said, no, brunch is great, man. I've brunched
with your kids.
Yeah, you can go to brunch with your kids.
Lila Rose also makes this point, which I think is correct, that you can do very nearly everything that you can do as a dink, meaning going out to brunch, going out for traveling, doing all those things with children too. It just happens to be that they love you abundantly and almost without condition throughout the time that you're traveling. When we took our trip to Florida as a family, it was so wonderful to have children walking along the beach, picking up seashells as the sun is coming up in the morning. And while I could do that with my wife, while we watched the sunrise together, having the children involved is just different. And we're biologically adapted and biologically attuned to desire those things. That's why so many adults play with Legos, because there is an inner child inside of all of us that is meant to provide nostalgia that we use to engage with our children, to engage our children in the learning and growth and wonderful experiences that we had when we were children. That's why so many of us grow up into still liking the things that we did when we were kids. It is meant to be passed down. Do not miss out because you think you're going to miss brunch, because you can have brunch with your kids.
More, and this is happening to so many women today. I can't have children anymore. What did I do with my life?
Lila makes this point, which is another thing we need to be careful of. Do not run out of time. I am actually concerned and actually desire for Taylor Swift to have children so that she can experience some of the things that she was missing, that she's been singing about missing. And then hopefully a great many of her fans would experience the same thing, having it not happen too late for them, where they don't have any eggs left in the carton. Please just be aware that this is a limited commodity. You can't have kids forever. And as men, if you get older in life, your kids have more prevalence of things like schizophrenia and other autism spectrum the older that you get as you reproduce. So even though we as men can reproduce until we're 70, sometimes it isn't always better to have children later, even though you might feel like you're more established. I'm not saying you need to rush. However, it is important to note that being older doesn't necessarily make your experience and your stability more likely.
In this video, there's no, I'm helping my little nieces and nephews on the weekend, because you can be a single woman or a single man and live a beautiful, meaningful life. And you can actually have a vocation to celibacy even, where you don't have biological children, or maybe you struggle with infertility and you're not able to have biological children. You can still live an incredibly meaningful life.
The thing that is perhaps the most reprehensible about the Dink movement is the selfishness. It projects selfishness as being the highest ideal in your life. Like if you can just order Amazon, watch Netflix, and not have any responsibilities, that for some reason will be more compelling and more fruitful than a life of serving others. And for those of us who have served, and part of how God prepared me to have kids was to push me into being an international missionary, push me into being in leadership in different places, because it prepares us for a life to serve others. And there is no way on earth that somebody who is able to abide by their selfish desires all the time has a more meaningful life than someone who is serving others. One of the leading treatments for depression is volunteer work. It is serving others, because when you get outside of yourself and you provide for the needs of others, it changes something inside of us. And I'm just going to do the trust me, bro, on this one, because if you haven't done it and you're depressed, you might want to try
other people
it.
And loving them back. And if you don't have that in your life, you're a hedonist materialist that is going to be miserable on an eternal level.
Now, when I talk about dinks, people always come in the comments and say, you don't know what it's like. A lot of people don't want to be parents. A lot of people are really bad at parenting and they shouldn't have kids. And all that might be true. All that might be true. But what my experience has been as a man who I know is broken and a sinner and has tendencies that I would prefer not to pass on to my children, even so, this has been so much more purposeful. And I am so much of a better man because of this. So here's my admonition to anyone listening who's like, kids are just not a good idea. Here's my admonition. What if I'm right? And you are going to look back in 20 years and have regrets. Maybe we'll have a civil war. Maybe there'll be, nuclear fallout, or maybe aliens will come down and encroach on all of our beeholes. That might all be true. But you will find that if all of our alarmist thinking is incorrect and we just sort of persist and adapt, and the human race persists and adapts, you will probably look back in regret of not having a family to share it with. And that would be my simple admonition, is if you simply think that children are out of the picture, out of the box, not a good idea for you, you might regret it. And what if I'm right? If you can support anything surrounding this type of content, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to talk to you again real soon.